Okay, yay. So, hi everyone, thank you for joining us, on a Sunday, kind of, weird timing, but thank you. In terms of what we're going to be talking about today and kind of like the structure, if like all of the panelists could kind of just go around and introduce themselves a little bit, just kind of like what like school you go to or went to, a little bit about yourself and stuff like that, maybe where you're calling in from right now. Um, yeah, so if any one of you wants to go first, we can start off with that.
I can go first.
Cool.
So, hi, I'm Trevaughn. I'm a rising junior at Colby College. This summer, I'm interning at Citigroup in the sophomore leadership program. It's remote, obviously, right now, so I'm calling in from Massachusetts, and I'm currently a statistics major at my school.
Awesome.
Hey guys, my name is Dhruvi. I'm also a rising junior at the University of Florida, and I'm studying finance. And this summer, I'm also doing a remote internship with a boutique in Texas doing investment banking. And I'm in the Panhandle of Florida right now.
Nice.
Hi everyone, my name is Desiree J. Forte. I'm an alumni of Mills College in Oakland. I'm calling in from Oakland and I do a multitude of things. I'm glad to be with you all this weekend.
Awesome. Yeah. So it's so great to meet all of you guys. So I guess without kind of like further ado, we'll get into the questions that we have for everyone. So the way that this is going to work is I'm just going to ask the question and then we get the response from each of you and then move on to the next question. So just feel free to kind of, unmute yourself, hop on kind of in any order you want. So first question for everyone is, kind of, did you always know that you were going to do something business related, or did you end up changing your major at all, or changing like what you wanted to do kind of as you went through college and stuff like that?
I'll go ahead and jump right in. I did not plan on doing anything business related. When I went to school, I changed my major several times. I did not get a business degree. English, emphasis in creative writing, a minor in ethnic studies. So when I wanted to run around and not do writing, I ended up doing writing. My last year of school was in an institute called the Institute for Civic Leadership, a year-long like extended learning program where we kind of cultivated what were our thoughts for moving forward in leadership, knowing the subjugations that women have in the world, like what would we do? And I ended up writing these very strong papers that have fueled my work over the last 7 years. I started doing business officially after going through the Youth Impact Hub here in Oakland in 2015, where I got to develop my idea for a business called the Biz Stoop. After launching and getting my first set of, seed grants to run the business, I found myself in this startup curve, which is it's emotional, it's mental, it's a whole bunch of stuff. But I persevered, thank goodness, having good mentors in my corner that were always supportive and running into challenges like you do when you start businesses. But after year one, it was clear that I had something to work with, and I've just been developing it since.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay, man, I'll answer. Okay, man, I'll answer. In high school, I thought I wanted, so when I was applying to my schools through like Questbridge, I actually thought I wanted to do biology and pre-med. So, so of course, until I took an AP Bio my senior year, but I ended up declaring econ my freshman fall And then I went to those things where I thought I was going to be a double major in math and econ, and then I ended up settling on statistics, and I'm not sure what my minor will be right now. So my path really, it hasn't been like a straight path through like the business or econ or finance. So in kind of what I want to end up doing in finance is more like using like algorithms or like quantitative trading along those lines. So I think I might have made like the right choice in my major.
Awesome. Yeah.
I actually had a similar path. So in high school, I was really pre-med focused. So going to college, I wasn't really sure if I wanted to do just do pre-med. So I was actually finance on pre-med, and it was just very overwhelming. So after like my first semester, I kind of had to decide like, okay, do I want to focus all my attention on pre-med or business? And I found myself just more inclined towards business and like kind of everything it offers. And I was really interested in finance. So that's kind of how I decided that I wanted to focus just on finance itself. And also just like, it's kind of off topic, but just like join as many clubs as you can. And it's like, it's okay to not know within like your first or second year that you want to do business or you want to do finance or marketing. But like the more experiences you join, it'll help you narrow down whatever you want to do.
All right, great. So this is kind of like a tangent, I suppose, but it kind of relates to what you guys were just talking about. So a lot of people were wondering about, when they get to college, picking their major and stuff like that. They were wondering if you found it helpful at all when you were in college, or, when you were just starting out to go to, like academic advising and stuff like that. Like, would you say that that was really what was helpful to you? Or do you think that, like Dhruvi just said, it was like clubs and things like that instead?
I can start off. I think going to academic advising is helpful just because you want to like understand like what that major or that minor is going to entail and like what classes you're going to take, because I think having a broad like understanding of what you potentially could be taking over the next 4 years can also help you decide if you want to do something, especially because I feel clubs help you understand like the real life application where a lot of the textbook material, like an advisor will be able to probably help you understand that more. So I think it's good to like go to an advisor, but also just like understand that like what you're learning in the classroom isn't like what your job could entail or like whatever your future could entail.
I also agree that going to see academic counselors can be very beneficial. Um, when I was in high school, I kind of was one of the people that I knew I was supposed to go to college, so I just need to figure out how to make that happen. I spent a lot of time at the library with teen council and got exposed to, what is applying to college, how do you navigate that. I took advantage of doing when you do your SATs and your APs, they have the whole College Board profile. So I like filled it out. I ended up getting recruited by the college I went to. And I did my education a little bit different. I was fortunate to be at a liberal arts learning based institution as opposed to research. So it's a little bit more forgiving and understanding. I had a lot of personal things come forward when I had started school. That summer, I did get to go to the summer academic workshop for leaders and scholars, which was like a preparatory cohort for first generation college students. It gave you exposure to what were some of the rigor of the classes, some of the professors you probably were going to end up taking, and how to navigate financial aid, how to navigate the dean's office, which I spent every quarter in the dean's office because I had a lot going on personally. But by taking advantage of being in that program, it got me connected to a lot of faculty and staff that if I didn't go through it at first, school would have been very, very, very challenging for me, and I might not have made it out just with everything I had going on. So if you get opportunities to talk with the academic counselors before you get to the campus, or there are like the freshwoman activities, you can take part of that. and my actual academic counselor did not present to me until my third year of school. I took classes based on my interests, and every time I tried to do it based on a major, it just was not working out for me. So by the time you get to your junior year, you're having to decide or declare your major. And looking at my credits, it was like, okay, clearly this is the major that I'm taking. So if you have an opportunity to use your first year or even your second year to just explore classes because they're of your interest, it might bring forth that degree for you.
Great. So, I mean, does anyone have anything else they want to add to that? Or we can just go into, the next question. Okay. So next question is, you briefly kind of touched on it with, going to a liberal arts school and stuff like that, but just to kind of elaborate a little bit, how did you go about picking your college that you attended? And what were, the main driving factors or was something maybe that you found helpful during the process and stuff like that?
I'll jump in to just roll with it. How I chose, I will say this, the high school that I was at, I wasn't originally intended to be there. I had gotten displaced from Oakland and had to move in with our family in Santa Monica. So it was a big culture shock getting used to their system there. And by the time it was senior year, my academic counselor was not very supportive of thinking that I could go to college because my SAT scores were considerably low. And we know like those tests are not always culturally accurate. So, I kind of started applying based on I got fee waivers to apply for a certain amount of schools. I knew I was going to apply for the UC system because I was familiar with it. Mills, they sent me a message. So you do your AP College Board profile or whatever little student thing you have. Some schools are recruiting through those systems, and they found me, and it was like, oh, do this application. You won't have to pay a fee, and we'll let you know in 2 weeks if you got in. And I was like, okay, whatever. I didn't plan on going there. I planned on going on UC Davis. But when I got my first acceptance letter from Mills, it was like, oh, huh, interesting. And there was a scholarship, eucalyptus scholarship for like $12,000 attached to it. And I was like, okay. I applied to all these other schools. I did not get into the Ivy Leagues. I did get into UC Davis. I got into San Francisco State. I think I got into 5 of the schools I wanted. And ultimately, I chose Mills because it felt like it was an invested relationship. They had new student tea party thing that they did in SoCal. They'd send you messages. You could talk to your academic counselor. So where I was in my position of life, I knew I had a lot of things to clean up from my youth when I was here in Oakland. And so I just chose Mills because it was strategically placed for like what I needed to accomplish. And it felt like it was a real valued relationship as opposed to like, oh, you got in, sign these papers, So that's how I chose.
I can go. So I grew up in Florida, and so um, for anyone that's not familiar with Florida system, basically like if you take a lot of AP credits and like dual enrollment credits, most Florida colleges accept them. So I wanted to like have the opportunity to like get my gen eds out of the way so that I could really focus on like finding classes that interested me and really figuring out what I wanted to do. So the reason I chose the University of Florida is because it allowed me to do that. And going in with so many credits, it also allowed me to pursue a master's. And so I decided to pursue a master's in finance. That way, like when I do start working in 2 years, I like really just like give myself a competitive advantage. And Bright Futures, which is like the Florida scholarship, it pays for your tuition for 4 years. So I just went because I thought I'd be making the most of like my 4 years as an undergrad.
So I didn't really know much about Colby, but the way I went about it is on Questbridge. I was thinking about getting recruited for either football or rugby. And so I also wanted to go to like smaller schools. So the way I ranked my schools is that I chose Brown first, Tufts, and then I had a bunch of like NESCAC liberal arts schools because I wasn't, so at that time I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do. Um, so so I guess when I got matched with Colby, they gave me the Colby, so the Questbridge College match, which is like a full scholarship. Sorry, sorry about the quotations. It's not really full scholarship, but it's a full scholarship to like the school that he gets matched to is a binding agreement. So I ended up going with Colby College.
Awesome. Yeah. So woohoo to Questbridge. I did Questbridge too, but did you end up doing it through their regular decision or the binding, like the first one, like the EA, ED?
Um, I went through the ED, so
Ah, yep.
yes,
Yeah.
so it was totally binding. So I didn't really have a choice afterwards.
Okay, cool. So I don't know if Shrieker or Crystal want to hop in and do questions 3 and 4. The ones about, internships and networking, basically.
I can do questions 3 and 4. Let me open that email real quick. Okay, so whoever's ready to hop on for this question, how did you acquire your internships and slash or experiences so far? And how has it helped influence your path and has it changed you in any way?
I can go. So actually, last summer I studied abroad in London, and that's where I had my first internship. I worked for a finance startup. It was a crowdfunding platform, so it was basically placed to me through a program. So I didn't really like have the chance to talk to other companies, but it was really cool because it allowed me to learn a lot about international business and like really understand it after a whole year of like taking classes like about finance, if that was something that I was actually interested in doing as like a full-time job. So that was really interesting. And then this summer, I'm doing an investment banking internship and it's remote. So it's definitely really different because you're at home constantly. So it also makes you like think like, is this work really something that I want to be doing on a daily basis? And I guess like um, for this summer, I really just like applied and I used my school resources as much as I could. Just like if any director would send out like positions, I knew I'd have a better chance because these recruiters were coming to our school, so they were probably looking for a UF student. So I guess like my advice is just like really apply anywhere, but like really try to use your school resources because even if it's like a small company or it's owned by one person, like maybe they've had a really good connection with like the University of Florida or like a good experience with like previous interns. So they'll be really happy to like talk to you and like ask you about your interests and figure out if like you're a good placement for their job and that if you can learn something from that position.
So how I ended up with this internship actually starts my freshman year. A city tends to recruit a bit at Colby. So I was talking to one of the alumni that was going to return there for full time, and she told me to apply to the freshman program, which was a diversity program where you spend 2 days at the bank and you network and learn about different like different areas of the bank. So and then because of that program, I got and it's a guaranteed interview for the sophomore program, and and they also helped me prepare on the way since I was in the freshman program. So as the networking question, I utilized a lot like my school resources, like alumni, people that you meet at the bank. Like you should be in constant contact with them. Like if you send an application, you should also send an email like immediately to an alumni saying, "Oh, I applied to this uh, business," because they will flag your resume, so it doesn't go through the algorithm that these companies may use. So in other ways is I use SEO to help me prep because they don't have a finance major at my school. So an SEO is basically a nonprofit organization for Black and Latinx and Native American students that it helps them, so it helps prepare you for these internships and also prepares you for like the interviews. And it also, so it helped me a lot because no one in my family did did, did finance, so like that helped me get like the lingo and like the daily conversations.
Yeah, I definitely third that using your school resources are important. I got my first internship when I was in high school through a program called Vocational Services. And because I had a history of volunteering at these youth spaces, I got to volunteer for the summer before I left for school to earn some money. So I wasn't going to be broke when I got there. After that, Mills, every week we had this thing called like the Student Digest. It was like a daily newsletter that went out to everybody with an email account, and you could like post stuff in there. I was actually one of those people that read the newsletter. Most people don't read the newsletter. I used to read it. That's how I would find out about like awards that you wouldn't know, like the Elizabeth Burwell Prize. It's an award that they only advertise for like 2 weeks right before school opens. And if you didn't catch the message, like you couldn't apply. I actually was able to get one of those by getting people to recommend me for it and recommend it myself. That's how I found out about the summer 2011 internships that the school was doing with the city of Oakland. And basically, like, it was the first time the school was going to pilot hosting paid summer internships. So I applied, and I applied for 2, and I actually got interviewed for both, and then I got them both. They're both part-time internships, and I just asked the people, like, yo, like, can I take both? And they were like, well, there's nothing in the rules that says you can't. So I was the one and only person that worked full-time that summer, bouncing between a East Oakland Youth Development Center, which is a space for kids 5 through high school. And then at the Beyond Emancipation, it's a foster youth resource space. And I got to do teaching, and then with the foster youth was doing career development. I worked my entire time in school through work study, so take advantage of the hiring fairs that they have, develop a relationship with somebody, because it is true. If they kind of know of you and you seem decent, you might get hired. And I had the beauty of being rehired every year by the same departments, just so that a really strong relationship with my supervisors. And at Mills, the way it went is your first year you can only work so many hours, and then your next year you can work so many hours. And then after that, you could work the full amount, which I think was like 25, 30 hours a week or something. And then post-school, the way that I've gotten internships was getting into youth spaces. So here in the Bay Area, there's a lot of training programs for young people. Most of them are for youth who are in like re-entry and all these things, and I don't necessarily have that background, so I had to navigate deeply to find a space that was going to be like a supportive learning environment. I got into that Youth Impact Hub program because I realized I was getting older, and the older you get, the less resources. So you take advantage of things that are before you. And now I'm at that point in the career where I don't get internships anymore. I get fellowships. Fellowships are like a little bit more pay for you to either deeply invest in a solution that you want to create in the world, and an organization stipends you to like spend the time doing that. My last 2 fellowships were doing grant management and advisory for a international grant making entity, which has transpired into more opportunities. So I think if you hack at it, you keep at it, same field, doesn't matter if it's a different position. That is what is gonna like build upon your career.
All right, that was really awesome responses. Let's move on to the next question. So, in your own words, what is a good way to network in general, and how would you recommend others to network right now in this current condition? Incoming freshmen and like probably current sophomores are probably freaking out right now that all their opportunities have disappeared. So, what advice do you have for those type of students?
And I can start this. And I'm really an introverted, and so sometimes conversations don't flow naturally to me. So whenever I have a networking call, so I make sure to research the person on like LinkedIn, on the company's website, and then I develop like 3 to 5 questions to hold to always have in my back pocket. Where like if the conversation starts to get like dry, I'll just ask this. So like networking, especially like now, so a lot of these people actually have a lot of free time because they're working from home. A lot more free time. They're actually more willing to answer a call and to answer an email. So, so let's say if you want to reach out like a cold email so someone, or when an alum, just say like, "Hi, and you are like an alum of my school. I want to learn more about this opportunity. Are you free here?" And then like name like days and it's so in specific times. So so it's easier for them to block out time on their calendar. I mean, instead of just saying, "Oh, are you free next week?" So like when's next week for them?
Piggybacking off that, yeah, I agree. Like, definitely, I think one thing to remember is like, even if you're not an extrovert, just know that everyone's nervous when they're talking to an alumni or someone from the company. So, like, just remember it's not just you, it's honestly everyone. Just some people might not show it as much as others, but also keep a really open mind. You never know, like, when someone can be a valuable resource to you or what experiences they've had that could help you. So when you like begin recruiting as a freshman or even before college starts, just really like have an open mind and try to meet as many people as you possibly can, and like cold call on LinkedIn, send emails. The worst thing that can happen is they don't respond. So like just know there's no really bad thing if that can happen. So just like really like give yourself a day and be like, okay, I'm gonna reach out to one person today on LinkedIn or like email one person and see like if we can connect and call. And there's so much more time right now too because of COVID, so that is like a good factor. And then I would say in terms of online recruiting, I believe it's honestly kind of easier right now because a lot of companies aren't targeting it to their target schools because everything's online. So they're opening up job applications and diversity programs to everyone. And so that's nicer, but also it kind of gives everyone an equal chance to like talk to a recruiter or talk to someone at the firm. And I guess like one tip I have is that if you're about to go into college or you're looking for a job, there's a lot of apps out there that you can join. Like there's one called Handshake, and you put in your details, and recruiters will actually reach out to you, and they'll tell you about programs that are going on. So, like do your research and figure out what apps and like that recruiters use in like the industry that you're interested in.
Ditto to all of this. LinkedIn, something about having a digital footprint that establishes you as a student who is embarking on a career path. If you're on social media, make your stuff private, because people Google people's names these days. Definitely Handshake. That's a system that my college had transitioned to. I think like my last year of school. It's a way that the career services can receive employer information, and as well students are able to upload like their resume and what have you. So you're visible in this employment search tool. Another thing about networking, I'm a very, very nervous person. I know it does not seem like it. So I always listen. I come with an intention to listen and learn. And then if I have a burning question, like I figure out how to get my question asked. I don't let the opportunity pass me, because that's how you can spark up a conversation. And sometimes, people stay behind in conversation and, keep going. Message boards are good. Using your career services. And I know that if you were going to be living on campus, you would have had like a RA or a residential person, and that RA, at least when I was in school, they would like really put in time to try to make events, try to go, even if they're virtual events right now, try to go. Yeah. And stay connected to mentors that you had when you're in high school, even if you just check in with them like once or twice a year, it helps you know that you've come from somewhere and you're still going forward and people are supporting you along the way.
Awesome. So this is kind of like a piggyback question off of like what you just said. But I know a lot of people, especially when they're, like first gen low income, right? When they go to college and stuff like that, they really have like a hard time, with like finding these mentors that are, so helpful with like the entire like process and stuff like that. So do you guys have any like, I guess like general advice for like how you go about like finding those mentors and like building those kinds of relationships?
Um, so I would say that in like general, if you're like having trouble like adjusting to college life, there's a bunch of clubs out there based on like your major or just like general clubs that are for first generation students, or like there's students for like women, or if you're a certain minority. So definitely join those because it'll allow you to create friends that have similar backgrounds to you, so you can like talk about what you're having problems with. And then I would say from like a business perspective, every company usually has some form of a program where they're really like accepting, and they give you mentors, and they'll invite you to their firm and like explain what their missions are and their goals are, and like how they're taking initiative to create like a more diverse workspace. So definitely just take advantage of that. And the way you can do that is honestly like any company you're interested in, just like look them up and they'll probably have a diversity program or something. And then also, if you're not sure like what companies are in like a field you're interested in, there's more general programs like SEO, MLT, Forte is for women, just women, and there's Jumpstart. There's so many programs out there that help minorities, and like it doesn't matter if you're like a woman or you're first generation. So if just like do some research and figure out what programs like work for you and what you're interested in. Like some are more marketing focused and others are finance and consulting focused. So just do your research and figure out like which ones are probably best for you to utilize.
So what I did is, yeah, those were all good resources. I joined two major clubs. Actually helped me like stay like sane on campus. So it's more like, so one was like the Students Organized for Black and Latinx Unity, and the other one was Kobe African Society. So I guess those like clubs were more like family to me. I mean, at my school, because we're not as diverse as we always say we are, or we're just starting to become more diverse. So it's nice to have like a place or like a group of people that you can always go to where you need help, or you can always go to just like relax and get like 30 minutes away from schoolwork. So especially if you're like the only person of color in your classroom, those places really help you out throughout the day.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. Like I said, when I got to school, before I got there, I did a lot of research into what are the departments. They had the list of student organizations online. I was like, okay, I think I would want to go. Then I was in that program, and what I found was that there was not a lot of diverse representation as I assumed it was going to be. So I went through a lot of like cultural struggle, and I joined the BWC, which met every Tuesday night in the Solidarity Lounge, and that put me in a space where people was like, okay, like, well, I know we have similar experiences, and the president of the club, her name was T. She ended up taking me under her wing. At the time, she was a junior, and she could just see like I was going through a lot, and I needed somewhere to do my homework and like not fail my classes. So she would invite me to her dorm, and I would just bring my computer, and I'd be in there till like 3-4 in the morning, like writing my papers. And so she looked out for me. So sometimes you might have an upperclassman that has a similar background to you or might have been in the same spaces as you, and they like offer their support. And I really appreciated that relationship because it helped me navigate housing for the next few years and everything. Always, I believe that always somewhere in every department is a magical professor that like everybody loves because they're trying their hardest to make like the experience accessible for all of their students. So depending on where your interest lies, like talking with other students will let you know sometimes like who's a professor you might want to check out, or who's the one that basically has their office hours open for people to come cry on the couch, because it happens, you just need a stress relief space. Through your work, you might find mentors through people who are in the same class, but it really took me having those mentors from when I was in high school to know that I could like follow up with them even just once a year to be like, hey, like I'm still, going, and they would give me that affirmation back. Just led me into being just stronger and more capable in doing my work. And at some point I flipped from being a mentee to being a mentor. I don't know how that happened. It just happens. So I don't know. It's like you go through a little portal as you get higher in your education. It's like you got some sense and you can pass that on to someone else. So yeah.
Awesome. So that was all really great. So I don't know if Crystal, you want to go with the next questions, or if not, we can just continue. I'll just give you this.
Yeah, I can ask. I know a lot of people, my age, including myself, are, wondering like what types of skills are useful in specific industries. So, like, how have you all, found yourself to be developing those skills, and what resources have been helpful?
I can start. So I actually think like due to COVID, it really gives you like the opportunity right now to develop your skills. So one way that's like really helped me is just like looking into programs online, whether they're like academies or they're giving certifications, and like trying to develop skills that I struggle with. So in finance, Excel is really important, and Python is something that's becoming really common. So I wanted to develop those skills. So I actually did a certification, and it was free due to COVID right now. And also another really good resource is LinkedIn Learning. So if you have a college account, I think it's usually free, and they have so many different courses for marketing, statistics, like literally everything. And they're usually like only an hour or too long, and you get a certification at the end that you can put on your LinkedIn. And it just kind of like gives you, there's like different stages too, from like beginner to expert. And it really helps you like understand what skills are needed for your major. So like you can put in finance, and it'll put up like a bunch of really hot topics that are important for that job right now. So that's really cool. And then Google also has a bunch of courses. So really just like honestly look up what skills are important for either a company you want to work for. Like obviously consulting is very different than finance, and certain companies might expect you to have different skills. So just look into like what skills you're also interested in gaining, and there's a bunch of free courses out there.
So I would also like to add, like, those skills are important, but a lot of these internships or jobs, they focus a lot on the soft skills, like being like a good teammate, being good to work around if you're hardworking, because they can, a lot of these internships and a lot of these jobs, they have like a week or like 2 weeks to teach you the technical stuff. Like they will end up probably teaching you Excel, or if you're going into like a quantitative field, like teaching you R or Python. But like you could be as skilled as like anyone so in those fields, but if people don't want to work with you, they aren't going to hire you. If you can't hold a conversation in the interview, they don't want to hire you. Like if you're not paying attention, like if you're going into finance or like in a markets area and you can't tell me what's happening in the news right now, they don't want to hire you because you don't seem interested. Like you could know all these computer science languages, have a 4.0, man, if an intern at all these other places, but they may not want you.
Yes, that was really good advice. I would say communication is a skill for the 21st century that not a lot of people have grasped. Social emotional awareness is very important. Addressing what your fears are, being able to be vulnerable but strategic in your vulnerability. If you're a dual language or have the capability of learning another language, do it. What else? Skills. Knowing how to balance a balance sheet, knowing how to manage money, obviously, if you're in business, knowing how to write. Part of running my businesses, like I started with ideas that then got written down into various activities that became a business plan. And then my biggest fear always for the first like 3 to 4 years was about the money. Like, oh my God, like I know what I want to give to people. I don't know how to make a revenue. Like that's how I was stuck. And working on my numbers used to make me like ill. So I put myself in a lot of incubators that are for social entrepreneurs, people who understand that the ultimate goal of me doing business is to bring benefit to the community at large, but that also means providing a sustainable stream of support for myself and family, and just continuing to work on it. And like this one guy said at a training, going to trainings really helps. Even if you've been through that topic before, different types of trainers do different things. They do come with certifications. It can lead you to other opportunities if you can demonstrate, like, I've been certified in X or Y. I had a history in the peer mental health sphere, so definitely in that space, like, you want to be certified every year in whatever your path is, and it exposes you to different elements of that industry. Yeah, but know how to balance your money, or understand what your relationship is to money and capital and resources, because that's a major component of doing business.
So I guess I'll do a piggyback question off, since this is mainly about skills. How would you recommend people put those skills on a resume to pop out to comparative to other applicants? So one of the big issues that people could see when applying for things is that they'll get melded in with like every other applicant. So what would you recommend someone to be different or without losing professionalism in their resume? So like, what would you guys recommend?
So I mean, I know for like computer science languages, there's an area that you can make on your resume, just like section off as those languages, or you could also put like specific projects that you've done using those languages. Like if you've built, uh, let's say like a game in Python, you could put that in your resume to make you pop out. Um, so and there's also like you can also put like AV awards, no, in like a open awards section of your resume too, so to make sure that those things pop up. Like so the so obviously it depends on where you want to work and how you format your resume, but yeah.
I would say also, so like they said, like your soft skills are as important as your technicals, and so many times like your technical skills sometimes will be more highlighted when you're describing an internship. But it's also important to like talk about how you improved on your public speaking, or you presented X, Y, and Z during your internship. So really just like you only have like a page for your resume, so just be really clear. And like if you went to a bunch of networking events with like executive team of your job, or you presented for your club and you put together an event, like just say that, and say like increase like public speaking abilities, or presented to a crowd of 500 people. And so by describing that, the recruiter and the person interviewing you will see that you do have those public speaking skills, or you've done an Excel and you know how to analyze data because you've analyzed like 1,200 lines of data or something. So in some way, be quantitative of like what you've done, and like just be really like clear about what you're saying you've done in the like the job or the club or whatever.
Yes, these are great suggestions. I remember when I worked in career services, we had different formats for the resume. So if you just want to archive, like, oh, I have a long working history, then you would use like a chronological format. Versus if you don't have much work experience, but you have a lot of skills, you would highlight the area of skill you have, and then at the bottom, like, but the little bit of work experience you have. Formatting of that resume is really important. No typos. Making sure that you have at least 3 to 4 bullet points per job that you're listing or per skill, and quantifying it is very important. A resume looks different when you say, oh, I built a database versus I built a database of 500 local elementary schools that were used for X report or something. And it makes it seem like, okay, like you did a lot and you know why you did it. A lot of people end up failing, or in my experience, people have failed in their interview process because either their resume, they can't articulate it when in a conversation, and they also like overloaded it to the point where there's nothing special when you're in that interview process or when they do a follow-up with you. Like you have to hold back like 2 or 3 gems, so it's like, yeah, all this good stuff happened and this part, and being able to describe how that work experience is transferable skills. So even if it was work at a grocery store, that doesn't mean that the work you did there couldn't be transferred to work done at a laboratory, right, or done in a business. So being able to tie in the dots is really important. Definitely have an awards section on there if you got any.
All right, so I guess one more question for everyone, and then we'll have like a couple of specific questions. But I guess we've kind of, in a sense, covered this, but maybe if you guys have like a couple of like concise takeaways. So basically the question is, what advice would you give to someone that is, just going into their freshman year? Like if you had to, maybe give them like maybe like 2 big pieces of advice.
If you're going to finance, one set of advice is that there are a lot of news sources that will update you like right in the morning, and their articles will take like 5 to 10 minutes to read. Like the Morning Brew is one that is talked about a lot. Like it literally, outlines everything that's happening in the markets, in like, so they say in Gen Z language, where you can literally read in 5 to 10 minutes and be updated on all the news. And second, I would say is don't try not to stress about it. Like I know that's hard to say, but like the most important internship to get, if you're doing like investment banking or like finance Wall Street, so it's in between your junior and senior year. So because that's when you're fighting to get the return offer. So don't stress if you don't have anything freshman to sophomore year or sophomore to junior year, because you could take that time to learn more skills or to just like enjoy yourself, because a lot of those jobs, they take up a lot of time. Like it's a lot of hours putting in where you may not be able to see your friends during the week, or you're going to be a bit too exhausted to hang out that for Friday night.
I would also say just like be really open-minded. Even if it's finance or you're interested in a non-business field, just like be open-minded to like looking into other opportunities as well, because you want to like make sure at the end of those 4 years or when you're deciding to like take a return offer that is something you want to do, and you don't want to think, okay, well, what if I had tried something else, or what if I had looked into another career? So now's your time to really just like figure out, okay, is this what I want to do? And it's okay if you make mistakes right now, like you're just learning. And I would also say like having a planner is really helpful, just because your freshman year, I personally feel like you just meet so many people and you're invited to so many events. And so it's good to like keep track of your day. That way you can make sure you're still getting your work done, but you also have time so you're not getting stressed out to just have fun and hang out with your friends.
Yes, definitely use your first year as an opportunity to learn. Some people come in like, oh my God, and then your parents, when I was in school, we had the whole helicopter parent situation going on. So higher education is a personal choice. Anything you're doing after the 12th grade is your decision. And you have to be accountable to the decisions that you want to make in your life. allow yourself to follow your interest. That's my personal suggestion, because regardless of the degree you get, you can still make moves into whatever career that you want. A lot of places may have pre-apprenticeship or some type of specialized training that even if it wasn't in your higher education, you went through a certification process or whatever to get to that next step, those transferable skill opportunities. I would also say for an incoming freshman, adaptability is important. The rigor that you're experiencing might be 2, 3, 10 times more than what you had to do this whole 12 K through 12 education experience. But know that if you got in, like, you have the potential to fulfill whatever it is that you're trying to pursue. You do have to create a system for yourself, and remember, like, you went to school hopefully to finish school. Like, that's why you're there. So having fun, you can have lots of fun. Learn your school system. At Mills, we were on a semester system, and I learned that within the first 6 to 8 weeks, you understand which class do I need to actually put more time in. Which class is going to require me to work with someone else? And so you have to learn the pace of your school, because the beautiful thing at my school is they kind of had the progress report mid-semester that let you know how well or how bad you were doing. And that would always let me know where I need to focus myself, or where I need to go to office hours, or where I need to go to study hours. Like, use those tools because they're there for you. And listen, if someone tells you about an opportunity and you do your research and it sounds like it's good, like, try it out. You really can't lose much from trying.
Yeah, for sure. So that all was really some, amazing pieces of advice. So thank you, everyone. Just kind of like in the interest of time, since like we're kind of running low on time, I want to make sure that I answer like questions from like people that they like submitted to me and stuff like that. So these are kind of going to be a little more like maybe like rapid fire-esque. I don't know. So like I'll just go into them, I suppose. The first question I got from someone is, I suppose we could start with this since we can group these together. So someone asked about how did you craft a narrative for your essays? And then someone separately asked if you had any advice for writing essays, for whether it's like a position, like a supplementary kind of essay or something like that.
I can start. I would just say, I think brainstorm and start early. It's better to start early because then you can give it to your friends, give it to your parents, potentially teachers, and they can give you advice, and then you can build on that and they'll give you feedback. And like, you don't have to like go through a tragedy or something. You're just trying to explain like why you want to go to that school, or why you want to be part of that club or that job, or why you're special. And everyone has their own little story. So like, it doesn't have to be like some tragic event. But I think starting early is like the best advice, just because it gives you time to like take in feedback and really like make it like you're the best version that it possibly can be.
All right.
That's
So,
a question. Read the questions. It's really important before you write the essay, so you can understand if you're coming from a personal point of view, if it's your world-based point of view. Try to bring in things that you're reading, current news or books, and life experience. And critical thinking is really important. Like, so think about it, jot it down, talk to somebody, and then continue. And use, if you have like I had teen library, they brought in like people to talk about writing your college essay. You have an opportunity to go to like a little online class like that, do it.
all right. So I actually have a really quick follow-up for you, if you don't mind like answering it really quick before we move on to the next question. But someone asked, obviously like COVID and stuff like that, like times are just different in general. As you, you know, own businesses and, you know, you do that stuff, has there been like some like new challenges kind of like introduced by that? How have you like found yourself like adjusting to like the new normal, I guess?
Okay. Yeah, COVID definitely put a pause on my tea season. Usually tea season like starts for me in March, April. All the community events have been canceled and my business was really dependent on those. So for the first 2 months, we were in a strict lockdown situation because someone in my house is immune compromised. So that was my priority. Then came along Juneteenth. I didn't realize how big Juneteenth was going to be in Oakland. If I would have known how big it was going to be, I would have taken off work all week and made tea because I would have made lots of money. But I went out with what I had. I sold out within like an hour and a half, and it just let me know like the tea is necessary. So I take choices, very strategic choices about when I'm going to vend in the public, and I do not vend by a lot of people. I also am not a spectator vendor, so you know, it's if the tea calls you, come buy it. If not, walk away. And I've getting my marketing together, got a mobile app made, and starting to do more delivery situations. So that's how it's affected my tea business. But with my social enterprise, I've been fortunate that my social enterprise for the BizStoop has always been a mixture of physical and online because the basis of it is to provide resources, and I'll do that through a newsletter or through having my website. We did have events and gatherings. That's all canceled right now. But the good thing is I've had 2 or 3 years worth of online grant management experience to where that business is not really suffering, if that makes sense, other than we can't be together in person.
Right, absolutely. So thank you for that. All right, so since we're really, really running low on time now, one last question for everyone. So this is from someone that's in high school, so they're, you know, really getting a head start, you know. But do you guys have any general advice for a high school student, maybe in terms of like classes that they could take or things that they could do to, you know, like demonstrate interest to schools and stuff like that?
I would, sorry, I would just say getting involved in like if you have like an AP or an IB program, and even if you don't have that, if there's like dual enrollment or there's honors classes, and like you don't necessarily have to take every honors class your high school offers, but if you're really interested in chemistry, then maybe taking like an upper level chemistry class or math or whatever the subject is, just to show like your interest in that area. And I would also say getting involved in extracurriculars, like with clubs that you're interested in, because you want to show like if you're interested in psychology, like psychology club or whatever. I feel like high school, you just have such an opportunity to like really create your own experience and like show that to colleges. So like you can also create your own club too, but like also just have fun with it. So yeah.
And I can make this quick. Colleges do keep track on how many times you are in contact with them. So I have no idea what they're doing with tours now because of COVID. But if they're having virtual tours, always sign up for them. They keep track of emails. It's on your interest. Like that can play a huge factor if they're deciding between like a group of kids. They are gonna go with who seemed more interested. So in the school.
Great suggestions. Definitely take part, extracurricular opportunities. Um, Develop a relationship with a teacher, like someone who knows you well rounded, because they will probably write you a letter of recommendation at some point. So have those people in check. Lastly, get a job, do something. Don't just go to school. You have to do something more than just go to school, and hopefully start a savings account if you can. Research has shown that youth that have a bank account when they're younger are more likely to go to college because that sense of like saving towards something. So get some experience with that.
Great. All right. So I'm just gonna stop the recording right now.